Welcome to CNN Central News Network. We are airing in Los Angeles with Carp Apus. Today is October 2nd, 1968, after the days of sit-ins at the office of the LA Board of Education, where 35 demonstrators were arrested for pressuring the board to reinstate the man named Sal Castro. Sal Castro was the key organizer of 1968 East Los Angeles high school walkouts, or known as blowouts according to the youth. We are witnessing Sal Castro's reinstatement live. Sal Castro was a Mexican-American teacher in the East LA Public School District who was previously fired. Much of the public were enraged, but the actions of LA Chicano students were actually what drew public attention to Castro's situation and successfully reinstated Castro. You may have seen some of their student walkouts and protests that took place earlier this year. This movement is gaining recognition as the Chicano student movement. You may have heard of it, but now it is brought to the forefront. For Mexican-American teachers, it was no easier than for the Mexican-American students. Regardless of position, Mexican-Americans still face discrimination in the workplace from their peers. Here to discuss the issues today, we have one of our staff members, Avery, to talk to you about the main figures of our program, Sal Castro, who fought fiercely for Mexican-American people.
Thank you for having me. Sal Castro was a Mexican-American teacher who supported the East Los Angeles student walkouts. He was arrested and charged with 15 counts of conspiracy to disrupt public schools and another 15 for disturbing the peace. Castro was fired from being a teacher and was jailed, but in June he was released. Today he is being reinstated as a teacher in East LA.
Thank you so much, Avery. Now Chelsea will show some of the pictures and videos from the walkouts.
This is Chelsea Abramowitz here, and right now I'm standing in the midst of a student walkout, or as they call them, blowouts. You can see on a student's board the quote, "Sal is for you, are you for him?" You can clearly see that the entire Mexican-American community came together in order to get the message of reinstating Sal Castro, a social studies teacher in Lincoln High School. These are the students of multiple LA public high schools protesting for Mexican-American rights in public school systems. The students that you see protesting here today were inspired by the Black Panther Party, the Black civil rights organization of the 1960s, and both decided to take matters they cared about into their own hands. In East Los Angeles, the Mexican-American community did not realize it at first, but their population of about 100,000 people were segregated from the rest of white Los Angeles. These protesting students are advocating for Mexican-American history courses, bilingual classes, more Mexican-American representation in general, and an end to corporal punishment to students. This is an ongoing problem. We were told schools that labeled themselves Mexican schools punished Mexican-American students to a high degree, from not being allowed to speak Spanish when stepping foot into the classrooms, to suffering from neglect and unequal resources from both the teachers and the Los Angeles School Board. This was the time when people began realizing that getting involved in direct action was one of the only ways to change the prejudiced school system.
So let's go back to when this started. Only 1 out of 4 Mexican-American students completed high school, which is very concerning. According to the students, their needs were not met nor were their culture addressed. The school simply did not listen or did anything that benefited their students. Students were categorized based on their ability or IQ level. This is where students started to get frustrated because as they confronted the current situation to the Los Angeles School Board, they did not listen. They threw the results of the survey away without any hesitation and began to politicize them. Parents of the young Mexican-American students didn't want their children to end up in the fields like themselves. Education that's currently being given to the students can at least gain them a position at low-wage jobs or laborers. So what they did was challenge the educational system in addition to targeting police brutality as seen in these clips.
At first, to see such resistance.
Yes, Carpapoons. The problem is indeed ongoing, but the focus slowly shifted towards those walkout organizers who were wrongfully arrested. We don't know how long it's going to take the LA Board of Education to listen, but looking at all of the young people, students, and teachers protesting today, they are not willing to back down. Back to you, Carp.
Thank you, Chelsea. We are now going to discuss the involvement of the Brown Berets. The Brown Berets were made of Mexican-American students fighting for the same goals. They were a powerful and militant group in the Chicano movement. They took inspiration from the Black Panthers, another group which was fighting for African-American people. One member of the Brown Berets, Carlos Montes, said, "We exposed police brutality. Back then, some people tried to deny it existed. We were part of building the Chicano movement for self-discrimination, which raised the slogan of Chicano power. It also started the movement for cultural awareness and pride in our Chicano history in the southwest of Mexico, and our culture and language." All of these people and groups fought for Mexican-American rights, trying to make the education system better for themselves and for all the generations after them. They have a big impact on East LA, and there's so much more that will come from them in the future. Thank you all for tuning in to CNN and watching this special program.
Okay, that's it. These are the students of multiple LA public high school protesting. These are the students of multiple LA public
Stalker.
high schools.
They're for themselves and all.
God, I can't do this.
Mr. P tortures us.
All of the people in groups fought